Welcome back to another episode of the EpicEarth podcast, a show for those curious about the STEM fields and the awesome, quirky, and fun experiences and research that is taking place right now. This is episode number 21, Petrologic Forensics, Why Good Volcanoes Go Bad. So hit that like, follow, and subscribe button, then sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we take a journey around this epic Earth.
I found it all so fascinating, just learning all the information.
Nobody told me I couldn't do it, and I loved it.
And now I know how to learn. This is a doable thing.
That's an impact that we can't ignore.
Hey everyone, we're back with another episode of EpicEarth. I'm Ashley Bosa, and with me I have my co-host, Brian Rosenblatt.
Hey, happy to be here.
And we're excited this week because we have another sort of volcanologist guest with us. Well, I'm excited because, I'm biased. But she is currently a PhD student here at Boise State University. She's working with Dorsey Wanless and Brittany Brand on a mafic Plinian eruption project, which we're going to hear a little bit more about. She has a BS in geophysics from the University of Arizona, and she has a MS in geosciences from Oregon State University. So she has a wide range of schools that she can talk to us about too. And on top of all of that, she's also the executive committee member for an organization known as Subduction Zones for Graduate Students and Graduates, or as they call it, the SC4 grads. So welcome, Jade Bowers.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. So tell us a little bit about who you are. What makes you you, Jade?
And now,
what makes you you?
What makes me me? Well, I am an Arizona native, and as you said, I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Arizona, so I'm, of course, a Wildcat for life. I think one of the biggest things for me is that I was able to reach my lifelong goal of living in Oregon in the shadows of volcanoes before I came to Boise State to do my PhD.
Heck yeah.
So I feel pretty fulfilled now, so everything after that's kind of just icing on the cake, I guess. But other than that, what would make me me would be my fancy neurodivergence. And really, some interesting facts, I guess, would be that I have played the cello for 20 years now, which is a long time and made me feel really old when I calculated that out earlier. I have a photograph of that same cello that hangs in a gallery in Arizona that was bought when I was in high school. I love getting new piercings and tattoos, and I have been known to dye my hair blue on occasions.
I have not seen that yet.
No, I haven't done it during my PhD yet, but maybe it's time to bust it out.
Yeah, I think so.
Right before your defense.
Yes, perfect. Dye my whole head blue right before I defend. I think it'll be perfect. Really distract everyone from what I'm talking about. And then I guess the other thing about me is that I met my fiance, Kyle, during my master's when I was trying to figure out how to put kernel density curves on histograms. And, over 5 years later, we still like to talk about data analysis, so that's good. And we enjoy cuddling with our Papillon Corgi mix, Kala.
Who's the cutest, by the way.
Yes, I know. It breaks my heart every time I see her how cute she is, and can't contain it when I look at her. So, and neither can anyone else when they see her. We're always getting stopped.
That's true. I mean, I just spent a week with her, and now she's one of my favorite puppies. So,
I think it's That's a price everyone pays for spending too much time with her.
It's okay. I'm willing to risk that.
Good. I like that. And then just like in my free time, when I'm not continuing to work on my PhD, I picked up hand embroidery as my COVID hobby. And so I'm still keeping that up despite my ADHD tendency to drop tasks or new hobbies. So that one's still going strong.
That's awesome. Is there anything in particular like that you like to embroider? Like, have you found a favorite thing yet?
I like to use patterns, so I don't have to think about what I want to draw or worry about if it's going well. I'm still learning. I recently went back to the basics because I just dove right into ordering a pattern off of Etsy and like started, and I was like, I actually don't really understand how to do any of these stitches. So I ordered some that were just like drawn out stitches and then descriptions of how to actually execute them. So hopefully my embroidery will be a lot better.
That's awesome. Have you ever embroidered some volcanoes?
I haven't yet. I haven't gotten that far yet.
It's on the bucket list.
Yeah. Right now I'm working on some shoes that were supposed to be a wedding gift for my best friend that ended up taking like way longer because canvas is hard to push through and I didn't have a thimble for some reason. So
oh yeah, that'll mess up your thumb real quickly.
Yeah, so I have like an aversion to picking up the shoes to finish them.
Yeah.
But I got a thimble, so hopefully those will get done and then I can move on to cool things.
That's awesome. Volcanoes. Well, I don't think we have a cello player yet.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. You're still playing cello then?
Yeah.
But do you play in any groups around or just by yourself?
No, just I use it as like a solitude kind of thing.
Cool. Well, there's a nice open spot for a cello in the EpicEarth band, I guess.
The hypothetical band that we're putting together.
One day.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking we should just make like an EpicEarth pets calendar thing.
Oh,
put everyone's like pets or animals on a calendar.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That would be really cute.
Yeah.
I'd buy that. Hang it up at my desk.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. That's our next gift.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Sounds like you're very eclectic and very fun. And I know that you are because I've worked with you. So I know how awesome you are. So what made you interested in your field of study? And how did you get into this field?
Okay.
Sounds like it has a backstory to it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's always two types of ways into geosciences. You either had a geologist in the family, and that's how you learned about geology, or you took an intro geology class at the beginning of your undergrad. And so that's how like a lot of people really get into the field. But I haven't always wanted to be a geologist, and I didn't know that I wanted to be a geologist until I declared my major at like orientation for undergrad. So I did know before I started, but it was kind of a weird path to get there. Mm-hmm. I actually considered being a microbiologist when I started high school. My high school had me like plan out my class path for 4 years. And so that involved taking honors bio early as a freshman so that I could take AP bio by the end of it. And halfway through honors bio, I realized that the only thing I enjoyed about biology was Punnett squares. And that I didn't really have any interest in spending 4 years dedicating my life to studying it because I knew I couldn't just do Punnett squares for the rest of my life. So then I also considered being a cryptologist because I was taking German in high school and it seemed pretty like easy to pick up for me, and I enjoyed the language and was interested in learning other languages. But in order to do anything other than like translating Spanish, I would have had to go to like a military academy for college to actually become a cryptologist.
Oh, wow.
And I actually, for like a hot second, considered going to Annapolis so that I could become a cryptologist. And then I decided that I wouldn't be able to handle being yelled at. So just scratch that one off the board. But my dad was always really involved in like trying to help me figure out what I wanted to do, and so that I knew when I got to college and I wouldn't have to worry about, trying to figure it out while I was already there, because college is expensive.
Right, spending 8 years trying to figure out what it is you want to do with your life.
Yeah. So I started to look into geology because as a kid I would get carsick all the time, like very easily. Even on 30 minutes to school in the morning would be carsick. And so I couldn't do anything in the car but look out the window. And my family was big on road trips, Disneyland, the beach in California, like just always driving to wherever we were going on vacation, which meant I would just spend hours staring out the window.
Oh my gosh, being sick.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing that I always remembered about that was I always wanted to know how the mountains were formed. And so that was the first hint that I was interested in geology and the earth sciences. And then my dad so kindly reminded me that at one point as a child I had written a rap about rocks in like my password protected journal.
Oh my gosh, had I known this, you would have had to do your rap for us.
Well, luckily for me, it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, bummer.
I don't know if it existed at the time that my dad reminded me about it and it's just disappeared into all of the papers just sitting in piles in the house or what. But yes, every time I say that, someone is like, you have to tell me about the rap. What was it? And I'm like, I don't know. But it came after going to the Mineral Museum on a field trip in elementary school. And
so you can play cello and you can rap.
Yes, just about rocks, though.
Do them at the same time, though?
I don't think so. I've never tried that.
That would be impressive. We'd be sitting on a gold mine at that point.
I can't play trombone and rap at the same time, so.
Yeah, that would
that would be incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Like more impressive than just while I was playing the cello.
Yeah, so that's interesting. A lot of people, that we interview, including myself, like we spent a lot of time outdoors. Not that you didn't, but like that was mainly our pathway into like the curiosity about the world. It's just hilarious and kind of sad that like your forced way into geology was being car sick on road trips and like having to stare out the window. But that's really cool too, that you kind of like found something that innately you were just interested in. That
Yeah, my family they've always been big campers. Mm-hmm. So I grew up my entire life going camping. Like even my dad's side of the family when I was young had big family camping trips, like 10 plus tents in a campsite. And that just seemed normal to me. I thought that everyone camped. So I guess it never really sparked my interest in the earth. It was just like the way that we spent time on the weekends.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is anyone else in your family scientist or geologist?
So both of my parents are in STEM fields.
Cool.
And then my sister she has a master, or she's finishing her master's in ecology and evolutionary biology.
Wow.
And so she studies the coral microbiome's response to environmental stressors like climate change.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yes, the
Awesome.
family of scientists. And my little brother's still figuring out what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Those must be some interesting dinner conversations. Or do you guys just completely avoid science at dinner and you're just like, let's talk about rap music? Or
Actually, we talk a lot about, we are big, like contentious topic discussers at dinner. So
nice.
Yeah.
We won't get into
Thanksgiving sounds great.
Yeah. We won't get too far into that.
Yeah, it's not it. We're all on the same page of the argument.
Yeah.
But it's just like that's what everyone likes to talk about, and so everyone just gets heated about like their experiences around whatever the topic is.
Yeah.
And so it's not a dinner conversation in the Bowers household if there hasn't been yelling. But my dad's also hard of hearing, so we all speak at an elevated volume anyway.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
we're always kind of yelling.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. Okay, so you have this rap about rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell us a little bit about going to college for geophysics. What was that? So, like, what sort of got you into that?
So I decided on geophysics because I went into college knowing what job I wanted. And so I have wanted to work in the exploration part of De Beers diamonds. So
Nice.
I was going to get my bachelor's degree in geophysics so I could be a geophysicist at De Beers diamonds. But that didn't last long. I mean, I went to college after Blood Diamond came out and like was a hot topic in both geosciences and just general like social justice conversation. But also I was in college during a lot of the turmoil in the diamond market. And so it was like the first time where raw diamonds were more expensive than cut diamonds were selling for. And so that was the first time that De Beers Diamonds wasn't really controlling the diamond market. And so between not really liking socially what happens with, you know, collecting diamonds generally or mining, and then unclear if there would really be any kind of job stability in it, I just started to think about other places that I could go with my degree. And at Arizona, the undergrads, pretty much every undergrad is doing an undergrad research project. And so that gave me a lot of opportunity to explore different fields. So I did some field mapping, structural geology work, and all I knew was that I liked doing research. I enjoyed those topics, but I couldn't really see what the job prospect was for them. I heard a lot of like, everything's mapped. We don't need anyone to map anymore.
Yeah.
Like everything's mapped. And so, you know, I wasn't going to be a field geologist or a field mapper in my eyes. And so I got lucky because one department seminar, they had invited a faculty member from the planetary sciences department to speak. And so he was a planetary volcanologist who studied Earth analogs for Mars processes.
Cool.
And so that was the first time I had been really exposed to volcanology and one application of it at least. And so then I had the opportunity to work with him on my senior thesis. And I was actually awarded a NASA Space Grant internship to study the interaction between lava and ice on Mars.
Cool.
So that's kind of what got me into volcanology. And it's how I found my master's advisor that I applied to work with. And the rest is history.
Wow, that's such a cool opportunity. I don't know. I've never done planetary stuff, but it's always intrigued me. And it's so cool to think about.
So you work a lot with remote data sets then, or?
Yeah, I worked with a lot of imagery, satellite imagery, and just looking at features, drawing on them, highlighting things, trying to understand the relationship, and then a lot of reading.
Yeah.
It was a lot of looking at a computer screen to map different features that I was interested in, and then reading about kind of the state of those Earth analog understandings of the deposits I had been looking at on Mars and trying to interpret potential ways that those features would have been forming.
Totally.
Did you use like spectral content, or like what in the remote images were you using? Were you just using like flow patterns, or was it more micro scale? Like, was it more like you're looking at wavelengths?
So I was just looking at regular imagery, and I was mapping rootless cone features. So they're like little craters that form on the top of lava flows when the lava flow interacts with water. Mm-hmm. So if it like flows over a wet or saturated sediment, there will be little steam explosions that form these little craters. So I was looking at these rootless cone craters that were only forming at the boundary between the lava flow and this deposit, the Medusa Fossae formation, which in the literature was like a coarse grain material. And so there was a lot of, is it sedimentary or is it ignimbrite kind of discussion. But it had these wind erosion features in it called yardings, and they're just teardrop shaped wind erosion features. And so they just form from one resistant layer, not eroding. And so it just lifts up and creates this teardrop stuff. But the rootless cones weren't anywhere else in the lava flow except for where the lava flow bumped up against these yardings. And so the question was why, like what is going on there that's resulting in these little steam explosions?
And so that can happen on Earth or on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so he studied analogs in Iceland.
Okay.
So that's where his work on volcanic rootless cones was.
Cool. This is actually really fascinating because we have a First Friday speaker coming this week who's talking about rootless cones on Mars, mud volcanoes basically. And I just read her paper, so I'm like kind of read up on this a little bit. So.
Oh, nice.
It's appropriate.
Yeah, very.
Who's
I think her name's Angela Dappermount, Dr. Dappermount. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. I bet that'll be a great talk.
Totally.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so here you are at BSU. So what are you working on now as part of your research?
That's a great question. I don't always know. Well, generally, I am working on a project that focuses on large volume mafic explosive eruptions. So the whole motivation behind this project is that mafic magma normally erupts like the Hawaiian volcanoes, which is kind of super fitting that we're sitting here talking about this right now because Mauna Loa started erupting last night. And so, well, I know that it's very scary for, everyone who lives near the volcano. It's an interesting site in science. It hasn't erupted since 1984. But anyway, that's normally how mafic magma erupts, just lava flows that are, mostly slow moving, thinning out. They can travel far distances, but generally they're a hazard that you can get away from. Mm-hmm. But I am interested in this style of mafic volcanism that is more like the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. So that big ash plume cloud, explosive, producing pyroclasts, lots of fast-moving, hot hazards. And these types of eruptions are really rare. There aren't very many recognized in the rock record, and so there's just recently been a real uptick in studying these types of deposits. And there's been a lot of work to understand how the mafic magma erupts explosively, or as we would say, fragments. Mm-hmm. So there's a pretty good or general consensus on why that happens. But there hasn't been a lot of work to understand what about the system or what about the magma leads to those processes that fragment the mafic magma. Yeah. So why was this magma special? Why did it decide that this was how it was going to behave, basically?
That's really cool. Yeah, like what a fascinating topic. It's so like niche. It just seems like it's like because it's so rare. Can you tell us specifically like what mafic plinian eruption you are studying, or there's several, or is there just one area that you're focused on?
Yeah, so I am working on the 12.6 Ka mafic ignimbrite, known as the Kirkatine ignimbrite, that is found at Yaima volcano in southern Chile.
Which is an awesome volcano. We're all fortunate we've gotten to see it in person. And so was that the last known eruption from that volcano? No, actually that one's erupted quite recently.
Yeah, so for a really long time, and I think it's still kind of considered the second most active volcano in Chile, second to Villarrica, of course. It's active lava lake, but it actually has not erupted since 2008. Mm-hmm. And I was just at a conference in Houston a couple weeks ago where we had some Chilean researchers come to talk. And so one of the speakers gave a presentation on how the volcanoes behave after big earthquakes in Chile. And one of the things that he highlighted was that after a 2010 earthquake, Yaima has been virtually silent since then, like not even really any seismic activity. So it's interesting that this volcano went from being incredibly active to nothing.
Almost like the earthquake might have shifted where the magma was directed or something, potentially.
Yeah, so one of the things that they ponder when it comes to Earth, like the response between earthquakes and volcanoes, is the impact that stress displacement has on the magma pathway. Mm-hmm. And so whether or not like that kind of stress movement can close a pathway that normally was being exploiting. That's what I was looking for.
That's really cool. Well, what a cool field site. How many times have you actually been to this volcano?
I have only been once. Okay. I was there in January 2020 for field work. Ashley, were you also there?
Yeah.
Brian and Ashley.
As well, yeah.
Just right before the pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still, there was all that Australian wildfire smoke like moving over into the air over there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's when we were down there studying Villarrica, and we got to go to Yaima.
Yeah.
And Jade got to give us a demonstration on how they're collecting their field data and what Yaima is all about. Such a pretty volcano. Mm-hmm. Really cool. And so just for our listeners, can you just describe what an ignimbrite is? Just like how large these actually can be.
Yes. So an ignimbrite is, first, it's a pyroclastic deposit, which pyroclasts are the type of material that is formed when the magma is fragmenting. So instead of seeing like your typical lava flow and like the lava rock that you see in people's yards, like this is something that has a lot of bubble space in it because the magma had a lot of gas that was stuck in it, and that's what leads it to fragment. And so we're looking more at pumice, but the mafic version of it. And so ignimbrites are the deposits of pyroclastic flows, and so they're ash and hot gas and pyroclasts and sometimes pieces of other rock that was making up the volcano during the eruption. And they are very large deposits. One of the outcrops that I work on is, it's over 45 meters thick, and the base of it is not exposed. So
Wow.
that's just a minimum value.
Wow.
These are large deposits. Not all ignimbrites are that large, but I specifically work on large volume mafic explosive eruptions. So.
Nice. Yeah, they're pretty extensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, we can't wait to hear about some of your results whenever you decide to defend. But what a cool project. So what is the best or most fun thing about what you do?
I think the best thing about what I do is the variety of opportunities to travel that I've had. And I know that it's not the case for everyone, but it is one of the opportunities that being in volcanology and going to graduate school has awarded me. I have done things like travel for field work. During my master's, I worked on an active volcano in northern Sumatra, Indonesia. So I did 2 field seasons in Sumatra. And of course, while I was out there, I was able to visit Singapore, and I also traveled to Java and Bali, you know, because while you're out there, you might as well.
Yeah.
Then, of course, for my PhD, I did my field work in Chile, and I've also had the opportunity to travel for laboratory work. So the furthest place I've traveled was Germany. Went to Heidelberg University to do some data collection during my master's.
Oh, what a wonderful place to travel to.
It was beautiful,
Yeah.
and I got to do a little bit of exploring because I collected my data faster than we thought I would. So that
Nice.
was also great.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I traveled back to Oregon for data collection. I traveled to Bozeman, Montana for data collection, and I've been to lots of places for conferences. Washington, D.C., where else? New Orleans, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, getting ready to go to Chicago. I was just in Houston. And then and Ashley, we're getting ready to go to Rotorua, New Zealand for a conference in January. So lots of fun places, and not just specific to doing field work. So even if you're, as a geoscientist, you don't do field work, like there are so many more other opportunities for travel.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because even doing lab work or collecting data in several ways other than just collecting field data, I mean, you get to travel and see these different institutions and work with a whole bunch of people that are networked in your STEM field. So that alone is just, it speaks volumes, and it's a cool way to just travel and see different areas of the country even.
Yeah. I forgot I also went to the Smithsonian to do some data collection when I first started my PhD.
Oh my God. I'm jealous.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That is awesome.
Lots of great scientists to work with everywhere. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then I would say that, like, in my day-to-day life, the best thing, or the thing that I find the most fun, is data visualization and graphic design. So I always spend time making my plots look great and, like, making beautiful schematics to help explain kind of the processes that I'm interpreting from my data. Something I'd much rather do than actually interpret my data or write about it. So,
are you on Reddit?
I am, but I try not to spend too much time on Reddit.
Well, there's a sub. It's called "Data is Beautiful." Our data is beautiful, and if you like really well organized data, like, you should follow that sub. It's really fun to just sometimes it's just useless data. Sometimes it's kind of useful, but they put it out in really strange ways that I haven't thought about, but it's usually pretty ingenious too. So
That's cool.
Our data is beautiful.
I'll have to follow that. I think that Kyle might be on that subreddit, because I feel like I've gotten some random data plots in the past, and I've been like, why do you have a figure with this data on it? What are you doing?
Well, Jade is she's definitely creative mind, especially when creating figures and plots. And she makes a mean poster. So I have to say, I'm always impressed by her conference posters. They look awesome.
Well, after all those conferences you've been to, you're probably well prepared.
She's got it nailed.
We got a lot of practice.
Yeah.
I love starting with the color scheme for my poster for a conference.
It's so
That's
important.
the first thing I do.
Yeah. I mean, why not? If you could describe your work using an analogy, what would it be?
So I often describe my work as petrologic forensics. So I'd probably say that I'm like a forensic scientist trying to solve a murder. Only instead of a murder, I'm trying to figure out why good volcanoes go bad.
Nice. I love that.
Are you the good cop or the bad cop?
Oh, yeah.
I think it depends on the day and how the data is behaving.
Yeah.
It just depends.
Yeah, I might be the bad cop most of the time with my data, the amount of times I yell at it. Do you have any fun stories from the field?
I mean, I always have fun in the field, and I always make sure that everyone else is having fun in the field. There's a lot of things about grad school that are boring or monotonous or stressful, and if you enjoy doing field work and you get the opportunity to do it, I try to make sure that people don't stress too much about what's going on and, have a good time. But during my master's, I took an undergraduate into the field. And while I do have some really funny stories about her and some poor decisions that were made, I will spare her from sharing those because she is currently a PhD student at Alabama in geosciences. So I will keep those stories just between us. But I mean, one of the ways that I always try to have fun in the field is, especially when I bring undergrads with me, is, showing them the relaxed, non-science part of being out in the field. And so there are some good photos of, I took her to Lake Toba so that she could see the caldera. She'd never been. And, there are some photos of us just swinging at the caldera edge. And there's also a photo of me standing in the middle of a field with my Brunton out and the volcanoes in the background. And I just have a really confused look. And it was just supposed to be a recreation of how many times in the field I said, there's supposed to be lava here. When we were walking around with our geologic maps and the GPS. So that was, that's a good example of how I am in the field. But we did have an encounter during that field season where we were in a drainage looking for a pyroclastic deposit from the volcano. And we had to cross through a farm that had been vacated during the evacuation periods because it was an active volcano. And we just, walked through it. There was fruit on the trees. It was a salak farm, which is snake fruit. It's this little teardrop shaped fruit where the outside is kind of scaly. Yeah. But it's got the texture of apple, but it kind of tastes like honey. So my favorite fruit. And it's hard to get anywhere over on this side of the world. I've only found it once in Hawaii. But I was really excited when we walked through it, but you can't, get to it really because the plants they've got these really long thorns on them to keep the monkeys and stuff from getting to it. But we were climbing around in this drainage, describing the deposit, measuring it, taking photos. And here I was worried about these paw prints we had seen in the sand that, we were is there a Bengal tiger out here? Whatever. Trying to keep an eye on it. Our driver is telling us that, the way to scare off a Bengal tiger is that everyone gets naked because he'll be confused. And I was laughing about this only to, turn around to this Indonesian man standing up at the top of the drainage with a giant gun, which was the first time I'd ever seen anyone with a gun in Indonesia, at least like not police.
Yeah.
And then his two dogs like were coming down into the drainage. And so, you know, he was really standoffish and wondering what we were doing. Turned out he owned the farm. And so he was out there making sure, you know, that the monkeys weren't getting to the fruits. But, you know, he was being very intimidating at first until our driver started talking to him in like the local dialect.
Mm-hmm.
And so then suddenly he was down in the drainage with us and he was looking at the rocks and he wanted to know what we were doing and then, you know, thanked us for the work that we were doing because he hoped that we would find something that would allow him to move back onto his farm and like take care of his livelihood.
Yeah.
So just
interesting. Yeah.
one of those experiences that you have in the field when you encounter someone who's unfamiliar with what you're doing and then, you know, they learn and they're really excited about geology and they want to see everything that you're looking at.
And how important it is to have like those locals with you who are out there doing the field work with you because in cases like that, it's like, you know, it's like the same in Guatemala for me. It's like having the locals with us is so important. I mean, they just like can diffuse any situation like immediately.
Yeah. And they always know where the good places to go are.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah.
he took us to this spot for lunch one day that we ended up going back to a couple times after that where it was just like a stand where you could order like cup noodles and they'd heat it up right there for you and you could just sit. But it was this room that opened up to this giant panoramic window of Sinamung.
Oh my god.
And so it was just like so high up on the other side of the terrain that there was nothing, no trees, nothing blocking it. And so, you know, in the clear afternoon, you just had this beautiful view of the volcano. So like while you ate your lunch.
6,000 photos to follow. That's so awesome. Okay, so we're going to get into your first serious question.
Serious question.
So my first serious question for you is how would you solve a scientific problem if you were from Jupiter's moon, Io?
I was a little nervous that there was actually a question I didn't know was coming. This is very serious, though. Very, very serious. So, Jupiter's moon, Io. I would figure out how to harness the electrical current that's created by Io's orbit crossing Jupiter's powerful magnetic field. And actually turn the moon into what they usually, like, quote-unquote, call it as an electrical generator. But I would turn it into a true generator. So that I could power the largest Christmas lights display in the galaxy.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen some cool, tiny, and, you know, simple ones on Earth. So I'd like to try my hand at setting my own up on Io.
I could see that, for sure. What a show. Can you imagine looking at that through a telescope?
Just the whole one side of Io's Christmas lights.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It would really, I mean, the moon is like yellow, red, and green from the sulfur lava flows, so it's already got a good base
there you
for
go.
The color scheme.
Yeah, I love it. Then you can like time it to some music, so people like on Earth could get a real light show.
Yeah. Use those tinfoil hats to like really get the radio frequency coming in. Hear the Christmas music.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. And then yeah, would you keep them up like all year round, or would you like?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I am I wish I could keep my Christmas decorations up year round, but God won't let me. I'm lucky that he lets me decorate on November 1st. When we take down the Halloween decorations. It's mostly so that he doesn't have to go up into the attic twice.
Yeah.
To put the Halloween stuff away and then later bring down the Christmas stuff.
Listen, Kyle, if you're listening, you need to figure out a way to get Jade to harness that electrical power from Io so that she can just put up her Christmas lights on Io, and then you're done. Then you don't have to go up into the attic at all to get the Christmas lights.
Perfect. There we go.
Okay, so we're going to jump into a segment, sort of the elevator pitch of our interview. So we ask you to describe what it is that you're researching and what you do to 3 sets of people. And so the first is, how would you describe what it is that you do to a 4th or 5th grade class?
5th grader.
Okay. One of the benefits to being a volcanologist is that children love volcanoes. And anytime I mention them, they're already excited. So that's an easy job.
Yeah.
But for a 4th or 5th grade class, I would probably say something like, I collect lava from a volcano that holds secret information about the insides of the volcano and why it erupted.
That's awesome. I love that you use the term secret information. It's adds that little mysterious
Exactly, you gotta get
note to it. Yeah.
The oozing.
The oohs and ahs. Okay, secondly, how would you describe your research to maybe an undergraduate student or maybe a high school student who kind of is familiar with volcanoes but doesn't know exactly what it is that you do?
Undergrad.
Okay. I have a little bit of practice with this from teaching the 101 geo classes, so that's good. I would say that I study volcanic rocks, looking for patterns in texture, mineralogy, and chemistry to understand how the magma was stored and why it erupted explosively.
That's so succinct. I feel like on an elevator ride, I'd be so intrigued. I'd be like, no, tell me more. And then just hit all the buttons on the elevator so I had to stop.
So that I was held hostage in the elevator?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my one thing that I had practiced, and so then someone would have an extra. The problem with it being short and succinct is that then people are like, well, what about this? Can you tell me more about this? And I'm like,
yeah, no, it's always well, what about Yellowstone? And then you're like, I don't even study that volcano, but it's fine.
It's cool. It's a cool place to visit.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I like geysers. Okay, and then lastly, how would you describe what it is that you do? And you've had plenty of practice with this to a professional at a conference.
Expert.
If I was talking to a professional at a conference, I would say that I am interested in characterizing the entire transcrustal magma system to help me understand why a mafic magma erupted explosively. And I do this by interrogating the textures and chemistry of the pyroclasts and individual minerals to understand both fluid flux and subduction zones and magma generation and evolution, as well as volatile contents, thermobarometry, and diffusion chronometry to understand magma storage and eruption initiation.
I love the term interrogating. The title I'm just going to give you now is Volcano CIA. I love it.
It really fits into that petrologic forensics.
Yes. It does, and the secret information that these volcanoes hold. It's wonderful.
Well, they're really secretive, so
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go interrogate this volcano quickly. We'll be back.
Exactly.
Really nice job, though. You're very well spoken scientifically.
Yeah,
yeah, you are. Yeah. I would love those descriptions. I think anybody could understand them at whatever age level. So that's awesome.
That's great to hear.
Need to take some notes from Jade.
Or just go to the 3-minute thesis workshops.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. See, someone else is now promoting it.
Have you done the 3-minute thesis?
I signed up for it this year.
Yay.
But so I can attend the first round of prelims, but after that I'll be in New Zealand for the conference.
Oh, man.
So I'm still attending the workshops because ultimately I was interested in learning how to better communicate my research.
Yeah.
if I don't get to, participate in the competition, it's not that big of a deal. There's always next year, but yeah.
I'm guessing they're in person this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just use Volcano CIA on your post or on your one slide.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. Just
bold
letters.
Takes up the whole
No
slide.
pictures, just big black letters.
The slides workshop is this Thursday. I don't know if that'll hold up after that. So.
It won't.
It won't. That's really cool, though. Yeah, we get excited about the 3-minute thesis. I should probably do it again, but I just don't have the time.
I have to get on your case about it.
I know.
I mean, at the very least, the workshops themselves have been so much help. Like, I know that not everyone wants to stand on a stage and give a 3-minute presentation. I mean, 3 minutes isn't a lot, but it also is a lot to stand up there if that's not, your cup of tea. But the skills that I've learned just in the 2 workshops are incredible, valuable.
Yeah, the thing that I like about it is like your creativity in communicating the science. When I first did it, because I had signed up for it, and then I ended up withdrawing from it. But I guess I didn't understand going into it that like you get one slide and you have to be as creative as possible in that one slide, and it has to like visually represent what it is that like your research is doing. And so I was like, well, I'll just put this figure on here, and then like I saw everyone else's and I was like, wait a minute. No, I need to be more creative. So that's like the aspect of it that I really, really like, is that you get to kind of have fun with it in a way that like maybe at a conference or something you wouldn't normally be able to do.
It's unlike any other thing, I feel like. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might flex it at the poster session at AGU this year. Put my little 3-minute spiel together as a 3-minute thesis.
There you go.
Style.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to talk about your research so much at those poster sessions. Like, it's nice to do it in very short. Here's my research.
Yeah. Well, I'm notoriously bad at talking in front of a poster. I will just start at the beginning and be like, okay, this is this.
Yeah.
And then I'll move on to the background section and I'm like, okay, and this is the deposit and why we're looking at it. And then the results. And I'll just go talk about each plot and everything rather than just giving a 3-minute summary or a 2-minute summary of the poster and then letting people ask me questions. And so then I end up with people like interrupting me in the middle of the results stuff. And I'm like, well, this result over here answers your question.
Yeah, that's I think that's something that we all could valuably learn in terms of presentation, is like you don't have to like go through your entire dissertation to get the point across. Like give them the big broad like ideas, and then when they ask questions then you can be more.
Or you ask them if they want the long version or the short version or the super long version.
Yeah. Or the really super short
Or the
version.
super short version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the QR code.
Yeah.
I think it just seems so hard because on my posters I use like the questions as the heading and the major results of the different data that's being shown on the poster as the big headings. And so I'm like, well, you could just, if you just wanted to know the gist of it, you could read the poster and ask me a question. So then I'm always like, well, if someone wants to hear the spiel, they want to hear all of the intricate details of my decision-making process. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that.
Like, I have to be honest,
over.
most of the time when I walk up to people's posters and I ask them, like, well, so what is your research about? Like, I'm not interested in standing there for 20 minutes listening to every detail.
I feel really bad.
Yeah.
Definitely hold some.
No, I mean, no.
And I try to then
probably
rush
not true
through
for
it.
everybody. Like,
no, you can see it on their face, and then you start to rush through, and you're like skipping things, and you're like, yeah, so that, and okay, then this, and so this. These are the interpretations.
Yeah,
this is what we're doing next.
It just takes practice, you know. Like it's just one of those things you learn as you go along.
Absolutely.
It's also just a weird social scenario, I feel like. Like, this is like my work on a big piece of paper. You're just, like, here to look at it quickly, kind of, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know who you're talking to in that moment.
Yeah.
unless you know that person
Exactly.
already.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah,
like,
totally.
what is your discipline? That's what I should start asking. What do you study?
Yeah.
Do you study this? Do you want the long part?
Yeah.
No, you don't study this. You just thought the poster looked cool. Okay, here's the elevator pitch.
They like the color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just interested in your color scheme.
I think I attract a lot of people that way. Just visual.
You know what? That's okay too. Like, I don't know.
That's a part of it for
Yeah,
sure.
it is. Like, drawing people in is, they may not know anything about volcanoes, may not even know what a volcano is, but the color scheme.
What a world to live in.
I know. What a sad world to live in. Speaking of which, what is your favorite volcano?
Well, I love the volcanoes that I have worked on. I think Mount Rainier is my favorite.
Yeah. It's such a pretty volcano.
Yeah. And, you know, Paradise is at the base of a volcano. And Rainier proves it.
Yeah.
A little town of Paradise.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a little town. There's like a little town near the base of it that's called near Paradise.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, so anytime I fly into Seattle, I just like get all warm and fuzzy inside when I see it.
I mean, yeah, the Cascades are like on a whole other level, especially on a clear day. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah, I miss seeing them all the time.
Yeah. Mount Rainier is so beautiful. If you haven't seen Mount Rainier, you can Google it because the pictures are almost as good as seeing it as in person. But really seeing it in person is just awe-inspiring. It's massive, and it is the U.S.'s most dangerous volcano.
Classic.
For many reasons.
Gotta watch out for those lahars.
Is there a volcano that you haven't visited that you dream about visiting?
I think I'd probably want to see Fuego.
Yeah?
Yeah. So the only thing is, so I have always wanted to see an active eruption in person. And I have literally never seen one, despite the fact that I worked on an actively erupting volcano for my master's.
Yeah.
But during my second field season and my extended travels afterwards, we started to refer to me as the volcano whisperer because right before I had started my field work, Cinnabon had erupted, and then nothing. It was quiet while we were there. But Mount Agung was also erupting in Bali and disrupting all of the air traffic and everything. And so then I went to Bali and nothing. Just quiet. Just like once saw like a little tiny poof of smoke. I didn't get to go to the big island of Hawaii until after the 2018 eruptions, and so then there wasn't even any lava in the lava lake.
Oh no!
So I have just literally never seen eruption in person.
That's really funny because we just interviewed Maggie Holohan, and every time like she goes to Yellowstone and then the geysers just start erupting like the moment she gets there. Like everywhere she goes, like things just start happening. So like, the opposite experience.
Yeah, you just need to travel with her. Things will start happening. Fuego's a good one because it's just erupts all the time.
If you went to Strombolid, though, you'd see a ton of eruptions.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's true.
Yeah, we just need to get you at a very active one.
Yeah, something that is just, and then I have to stay there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like even my first field season at Cinnabon, there was nothing. Like we were talking to the observatory about the eruptions that had been happening prior, and then I was there mostly to help a master's student with her fieldwork at Toba Caldera. And so as soon as we got to the caldera, we were on the island in the middle of the lake, looking back towards the north, and there were clouds rolling in over the caldera wall, which happens every evening. But there was this weird feature above that like peeked out from the clouds, like a weird cloud formation that we could just faintly see that didn't belong to the clouds coming in over the caldera wall. And so my advisor and some of the other geologists who were traveling with us called the observatory to ask them, if the volcano was erupting, and literally like 6 hours after we had left, Cinnabon had erupted.
So it was a plume then. That you
Yeah,
saw.
yeah. So we were seeing a plume from Lake Toba.
Oh.
I was like, wow, okay.
That's
And that's when it all began.
The curse.
The curse. I don't know how to break it.
You'll get there.
Move somewhere where a volcano is just always going off. Destined to see it.
One of these days. It's gonna happen. We'll get you there. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap up your interview, your awesome interview, by the way, with a couple more serious questions. So as a volcanologist, would you rather walk around with a salad for a head or broccoli for arms?
Broccoli for arms.
I agree. I think the salad for a head
No
sounds
explanation
really
needed.
weird. What about you, Brian? What would you do?
Salad for head? Is that like a...
Probably a bowl of salad or something for a head.
So the bowl is my head too?
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of stretching for a question, but...
I'd say broccoli for arms. Is that what it was, broccoli?
Yeah. Yeah. Seems more sensible.
Because like maybe I can open up the broccoli head and like use that as like a big hand or something. I don't
Like
know.
the florets to grab
Yeah.
things. I was just thinking I like broccoli.
Exactly.
And if my head's not a salad bowl, I could still experience the world.
Yeah, true. Also, like, I feel like if you get hungry, you could just eat one of your arms.
Yeah. What are the rules? Does it grow back? Or...
Probably. Sure.
Okay. Then yeah, definitely.
If it doesn't, then...
Does it hurt though?
Ooh.
Because if it hurts...
Hopefully not. It's broccoli.
Yeah.
It doesn't have pain receptors.
Yeah.
I don't think.
So then you can't feel. Then you can't feel anything with them.
That's true. Guess you could go up and touch lava with it. Not feel
Just cook it real quick.
cook
Yeah.
broccoli
Yeah,
really
hold
quick.
it above the lava. I'm into it. Okay, last question. If you could be any superhero, what would you be, or who would you be, and why? Actually, what would you be? Because I feel
Like, what would my superpower be?
yeah,
Teleportation.
nailed it. Love it. Yes.
I'm always leaving late. I would much prefer that I could just get somewhere without having to factor in people moving time.
Yeah. See, that was mine. When we did our interview with Mac, I chose teleportation. He was like, you got to be careful, though, because you don't want to end up in the store in your pajamas in the middle of the
Yeah.
night.
Well, that's the question. Does your clothes teleport with you? Or like
I hope so.
teleportation, but your clothes don't teleport with you? Or you could stop and start time, so then you'd never be late. But your time, you age like twice the amount of time when you stop time or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
I'd still rather teleport.
Yeah.
Can I teleport with like a briefcase? If I hold it.
What you need to do is
Exactly.
like set up a room
Yeah.
with stuff in it already, and you just
That's true.
teleport right to that room.
Yeah.
But everywhere you teleport to, you'd have to have an area with clothes in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I would just tell people if they were expecting me somewhere that there needed to be a room closed with my outfit in it already.
Or a towel. Just
Yeah.
hang up a towel
robe.
or a sheet or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
We'll be fine. Interesting. Well, on that note, I'd just like to say that, Jade, this has been so awesome. We're so glad we got to interview you. And, keep us updated on the mafic Plinian eruption world and how exciting that's going to be.
I'll try my best.
Thanks. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for all of our listeners out there, we've got one more episode we're going to be recording this season, and then, then we'll see what happens next season. But thanks for listening, and see you guys later.
Well, that was an epic conversation.
We'd like to thank all of our listeners.
Tune in next time for another Epic Earth podcast.
Anyway, it was so explosive a question that Brian dropped his pencil.
Epic Earth.